Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 621. I'm Tom Cagley, your host today. The SPaMCAST 621 features our essay on why Agile coaches need a code of ethics. Agile is practiced in nearly every culture. Every culture has its own definition of duty and of right and wrong. Coaches help to establish and address the client's needs by leveraging approaches that align with the values and principles of the Agile Manifesto. It's time for coaching to grow up and be a profession. We also have part 2 of Susan Parente's discussion on grateful leadership. Susan discussed how to keep grateful leadership fresh as part of her Not A Scrumdamentalist column. I will play part 3 in SPaMCAST 623. Part 1, by the way, was all the way back in SPaMCAST 617. Link in the show notes for that. Why an Agile Coaching Code of Ethics? Agile is practiced in nearly every culture. Each culture has its own definition of duty and right and wrong. Coaches help to establish and address the client's needs by leveraging approaches that align with the values and principles of the Agile Manifesto. Coaching is a mechanism to help people, teams, and organizations change how they behave so they are agile. Coaches come in a wide range of roles, such as coach, scrum master, and manager, just to name a few. People of unlimited diversity deliver each role. A common denominator is required to synchronize all coaches' actions to values and principles of the Agile Manifesto. The values and principles expressed in the manifesto generate a duty for those that take on the role of an Agile coach. Immanuel Kant suggested that a person's actions possess moral worth only when one does their duty for its own sake. Consequences don't define rightness or wrongness, but rather whether our actions fulfill our duty. Codes of ethics provide an outline that establishes the duty of a coach by defining a set of standards that govern conduct. A code of ethics will deliver 5 tangible outcomes for our profession. A code of ethics will act as a guide, a set of rules and expectations that allow Agile coaches and those that use our services to synchronize behavioral expectations. Guardrails highlight behavior that is appropriate or inappropriate to the duty of a coach. Supports. When deciding to act in one way or another, a code of ethics provides perspective so a coach can understand and express the consequences of a particular course of action. The Code of Ethics also provides a basis for introspection, peer support, by providing a common language of behaviors and outcomes. 3. Deters. Most Agile coaching is provided to advance the financial well-being of the coach. Mutual understanding of the boundaries of the behavior prevents innocent violations of ethics and delivers support to deflect pressure to violate those ethics. 4. Exhibits integrity. A code of ethics helps to establish an image of integrity and supports a positive public image of both Agile and the Agile coach profession. 5. Promote social change. A code of ethics helps to establish an environment that embraces diversity and a sense of duty for fostering the greater good. Why a code of ethics? All altruism aside, practitioners and consumers of Agile coaching need to have a framework to distinguish between good and bad actors. Without a frame of reference, there still will be as many opinions as there are atoms in the universe. A code of ethics provides a tool to constrain and guide behavior so that coaching delivers more value and less angst. Thoughts, comments, all welcome. Please feel free to reach out to us at tcagley@tomcagley.com or SPaMCASTinfo@spamcast.net. Susan Parente, welcome back to the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Hey, Tom, it's great to be here. It's always great. Wonderful morning. It's actually raining out, but I'm awake and alive and happy to be here.
Susan, your Not A Scrumdamentalist column is really one of the high points to my month in terms of editing it up, because I get to go through this multiple times and take notes, and I learn a ton. Last time we were talking about the idea of grateful leadership, and we got to a point where we saw the relationship, how it could work in Agile, and, well, how it could work in people's basic lives. But the problem I keep coming back to in my head is that things that are just done over and over and over again feel sort of like they can get to being rote. How do we keep this evergreen, fresh?
Great question. It's a really great question. So my answer is going to be a little unique for somebody with a engineering background. I have a master's degree in engineering. My undergrad was in mechanical, and I have, I think, 11 certifications. I'm kind of at that point where I got to look back and remember how many. So I'm a very left brain person. And so my answer is going to be even more profound because of that. And what I'm going to say is that it's about coming from the heart. You know, it's about really, really coming from your heart with that acknowledgement, with that gratitude. And, you know, it's interesting because one of the things I want to share is there's sort of something called the 5 C's of acknowledgement, and it's going to walk you through how you can make sure that your acknowledgement is really something that's genuine, that's going to hit home, it's going to land with somebody. But fundamentally, gratitude to me is kind of a state of mind. You know, just like when we started today, I said, wow, it's a great day. And I'm looking outside and it's kind of gray and cloudy and whatever. And so it's like, I could look at it as like, it's a miserable kind of rainy day. But to me, it's a great day because spring's coming. I'm seeing birds outside and it's warmer out and we're probably not going to get snow anymore. So there's always something to be grateful if you're looking through gratitude. So that's why I think it's a little bit of a state of mind. And then the acknowledgement part of it, if you're coming from the heart, that doesn't get old because it's genuine. If you make it thank you, that gets trite very quickly. And like you said, you're just sort of like, oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks everybody. Good job with the iteration. Thanks customer. Thanks Tom. All right, have a good day. You know, that kind of thing. That becomes trite because I think sometimes we say it without even thinking that we're saying it. So that's definitely not heartfelt. It's definitely not genuine. Not that it's mean-spirited, but it's just a little bit of a complacent kind of place to be, just to say it, to be polite. And that's not really what we're talking about being grateful and being a grateful leader. We're talking about shifting the way that you lead from being somebody who takes an incredible amount of time to correct somebody when they've done something wrong and takes very little time to be thankful when they did something right. And the suggestion is maybe to flip that. And actually, I think I was talking about last time, like there's this list of like why this doesn't work or why I wouldn't do it. And one of the things is I don't have time. And I was listening to this presentation the other day, and I can't remember. The gentleman's name was Chester, but I can't remember his last name. Anyway, and he said, you know, it's funny, if something goes wrong and you have to reprimand somebody, you have plenty of time for that. If something's broke and you have to fix it, you have plenty of time. But yet you don't have a few minutes to be grateful. It's really kind of proactive. And being that I'm a risk management subject matter expert and an agile subject matter expert, I find that interesting. My left brain is sort of appreciative of that because it's like, oh, it's risk management. Like if I acknowledge somebody now, I'm actually managing risk about dealing with failures and problems later. It's proactive to acknowledge people in a way. Not that I want to logicize something that is really meant to be heartfelt and genuine. But if you're worried about not having enough time, it would be like saying I don't have enough time to do proactive issue management, which would be risk management. And I would say you don't have enough time because you're probably managing all your issues and dealing with those because you didn't take the time to look at risks. So, it's really from a practical perspective, it makes sense. But it's about coming from your heart and expressing gratitude and gratefulness for other people. And honestly, I think we feel these things, and it's we don't say them. I think that's the problem, is it's getting it out of our mouths, and we're stopped because of all of these reasons that we don't have time, it doesn't make sense, I shouldn't have to do that. Can't we just stick to work and do the work that needs to get done? I have to thank somebody for doing their job, that kind of thing. But I think that we know what to be grateful. I don't think anybody needs coaching to figure out what to be grateful for. It's about stopping and taking a moment to smell the roses,
Why do we care?
Why do we care? Well, the logical side would say that a team that expresses gratitude is actually going to be more productive. They're going to be more motivated. It's funny. We got a new puppy. I was actually going to tell you about this. It took us a while to name her. We just got her on Monday, and we named her Daisy. And I've been starting to watch YouTube videos with Caesar Malone because I don't know a lot about a doggy training. My husband does. He's had a lot of baby puppies, new they're really like newborn puppies. So in training them, I you want to get frustrated sometimes and yell like no, but no doesn't like mean anything. I mean, they're mad at them, but really when you're training a dog, you want to express positive affirmation when they do something right, like they peed outside, awesome, and so there's like a lot more acknowledgement for doing things right and less like negative for doing things wrong, because really they're driven to do things right and to get acknowledgement. They want acknowledgement, like good puppy, food, things like that. It's all positive reinforcement. And, isn't it obvious? Like, don't we all respond to positive reinforcement better than negative reinforcement? I mean, we human beings probably have a little bit better, more valuable response to negative reinforcement, but is not as strong as the positive reinforcement is. And it's very obvious when you're training a dog that the negative reinforcement isn't doing it. If you say no, it's like, well, then what do they do? What does no mean? What do I do? What do I do with no? Whereas if you say sit, the dog sits, like, and then you clap and say, oh, good girl, you sat. Like, I'm not trying to be silly about it, but we do respond to positive acknowledgement a lot better. And it's very clear, when you're told no, you're like, okay, then what do you want me to do? You ever have somebody say, stop doing this, like stop talking over somebody else while they're talking. It's a little bit, I'm a energetic kind of person and very passionate. So that's one of those things, I have to like not talk over other people. Well, how do you do that? Well, you do that by listening. So that's something you can do. You can't not do something, but you can do something, and that's what acknowledgement is about. Acknowledging somebody for what they're doing, not reprimanding them for something that they're doing to tell them not to do it. How do you not do something? I mean, I get it. Yeah. Don't talk, but to tell somebody to listen, well, now they have something to do. Okay, I can listen. But how do I not talk? It's like, I don't even know what that looks like. And then you get in your head about, I want to make sure I don't do that. How do I not do that? And they even say, like, if you're trying to get a new habit, you replace an old habit, like let's say you're smoking or something like that. And people say, okay, well, give up smoking and start walking or start running or start meditating. Or, like if you replace something, then you're going to create a new habit. And so I think acknowledgement is about focusing on things that people are doing that are good and valuable rather than reprimanding them for something that is not good. And I don't have a psychology degree or anything close to it, but we're really kind of getting into psychology, and that's what all these leadership styles. They're about motivation, and fundamentally they're about psychology. And it's funny because I go to a lot of project management conferences, and I've watched panels of senior execs, and what they will tell you is the difference between a good project manager and a bad project manager is not the tools, it's not the agile method they use, it's their leadership. It's how people lead other people. And if you're on a self-organized team, believe it or not, you're leading everybody on that team, and everybody on that team is leading you. That's empowerment. And that's what makes an agile team work well, is when everybody feels they're empowered to be a leader and nobody has to specifically follow some person. We're all working together as leaders.
Susan, before we wrap this segment up, there's one thing that I sort of want to follow up on. The whole idea of, when we're talking about, instead of just saying no, using something else, tell people to listen, so to speak. And what was that ran through my mind right at that point is, do you think that taking a more grateful leadership style causes people to be more, at least listen and actually observe more than, the interrupt-driven sort of, hey, you're wrong kind of management style?
I think that it keeps people more engaged. There's a little bit of a turnoff, even when we make mistakes and do things wrong, and gosh, I'm I'm the first person. I'm probably like very mindful of myself and like, oh, I can't believe I did that, like that kind of thing, like maybe a little bit too critical of myself about things, trying to do things right, do things well. And if I get stuck in that mode, I'm not really motivated. And oftentimes, like, I'll I'll do a lot of work or make a huge effort and make a small mistake, and to get negative feedback for that small mistake without any appreciation or acknowledgement it's so defeating. It's so like unmotivational, because it would be like, hey, I did this whole project, or I did this whole task. I developed this. Let's say I developed some web page, and I did the whole task. And you know what? I made one mistake, and I get it. I made a mistake, but if we focus on that, it seems to me like all of my work, that the work I did in this whole week-long iteration is basically useless, not important. It's all the focus is on that one mistake that I made. And that's why, I remember years ago, they used to say like the, what do they call it? The compliment sandwich. So if you're going to give somebody negative feedback, you compliment them. That would be the bread. And then there's like the constructive criticism would be like the whatever peanut butter or jelly inside. And then the other piece of the bread would be something positive. And I think there's a reason for that. This grateful leadership is about expressing gratitude. And even when there's failure, there's a way to acknowledge people, like, I acknowledge you for your dedication, for all you did to get this to work. We did have this one problem. Let's talk about how we can make it better next time. And by the way, thank you for being in this conversation and staying engaged and adding value to our team. It's like so much better than like, we need to talk about that mistake you made.
Yeah, it's like I'm pointing my mother's teacher finger at you.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And I think that instinctively we all like step back, like we come inside when that happens. Like we come inside ourselves to protect ourselves. And I know for me, I get defensive. If I did something wrong, I get defensive. Oh, well, I did that because of this or that or whatever. And it's not a good thing to be defensive. There's no space for growth. And we're about continuous improvement. We're about inspecting and adapting. And that's about being open. And if we point that finger, everybody was like, I point my finger to my dog, the one that's 7 years old. I point my finger at him and he cowers, because that's like, and he could, he's a big dog, and, he could he could tear me up if he wanted to, but I point my finger and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. There's no space for engagement and discussion and improvement when we're in fear mode. So that having that acknowledgement, it's not saying we're not going to talk about problems, but we can at least acknowledge what people have done and then have a conversation about, hey, well, how can we do it better? And that's what I think the retrospective should be. And when I hear retrospectives not working, it's usually like, well, they're 5 hours long and everybody blames people. I'm like, that's not a retrospective. Like, whatever you're doing is not that. You're not following the process,
I understand.
Yeah.
Susan, how would people continue the conversation?
I would love to continue the conversation, and you can email me, Parente at S as in Sam, the number 3 -tec.com. So s3-tech.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Susan Parente, and I would love to talk to you about anything around grateful leadership, servant leadership, how to implement those in Agile, or any other Agile topic that you want to talk about.
Susan, as usual, I'm a more intelligent person every time we talk. I am certainly more educated, and I have notes on things that I'm going to try to do differently, or at least try out. Susan, your Not A Scrumdamentalist column is absolutely fantastic. Thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you, Tom.
In Reread Saturday News, we are back with Chapter 17 of our reread of Steve Tendon's and Daniel Doiron's Tame Your Workflow. Full kitting is an important concept. I think it's the most important concept so far in the book. Steve agrees. I saw him answer my blog entry on this, and he said it is certainly the most important concept, at least up until Chapter 17. Use the link in the show notes to buy a copy and support both the authors and the blog. Remember, the Software Process and Measurement Cast is a proud media sponsor of the Agile Online Summit 2020. The Agile Online Summit was created for people who couldn't attend major conferences. October 26th through 30th, 2020, there'll be live and recorded access. Link in the show notes. Buy a VIP and get access after the fact, or just listen in for free. In the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 622, we'll feature my interview with Brian Gill, CEO of Gillware. In the age of hacking and ransomware, we discuss the importance of cybersecurity and data recovery. Psst! It's important! If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?